Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day we explore how technology is transforming our life, business, industry, or indeed world. And maybe, just maybe, we can bust a few myths and misconceptions around technology along the way too. For example, if I was to ask you, what does Qualcomm do and what does Qualcomm mean to you? If we have any techies listening out there, I suspect that many would immediately say 5G. And yes, they have recently announced Snapdragon 865 plus 5G mobile platform, but they are also doing some incredibly exciting work around Wi-Fi 6, and that E stands for enhanced. And they're doing this to help with the surging connectivity demand that we're all experiencing now. For example, the average home has now got parents and kids all competing for the same bandwidth, whether that be video games, streaming Netflix, and of course, if you don't have the bandwidth, that video is going to be choppy on your crucial meeting. Your video games, you're going to get a high ping rate and everything's going to be all over the place and jerky. And if you're watching Netflix or YouTube, you're going to end up with buffer face, which nobody wants. So whether you know all about Wi-Fi 6E or you're intrigued to find out a little bit more, or if we can solve some of these bandwidth issues I just mentioned, buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Rahul Patel, VP and GM of the networking and connectivity infrastructure business over at Qualcomm. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Rahul. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Neil, great to be on your show. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Rahul Patel. I'm Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Connectivity and Networking Division at Qualcomm. And like I briefly indicated to you, I'm a big cricket fan. So, I really enjoy all aspects of life. I have a great team at Qualcomm. It's like a solid organization, well-oiled machine. And, the results of the team performance is shown in our products. And I think that's the bigger exciting part of the job that I have is the products that we bring about to the marketplace in leading capacity, some of which we'll talk about today, but all because of the team that I'm part of. And so really, that is who I am.
And it's funny because before we started recording the podcast today, you and I were talking about you visited Birmingham, where I lived last year, to attend the cricket, and what a great atmosphere it was at the cricket and things. And I'm saying that was only, under 12 months ago. It feels like a different lifetime away, doesn't it?
It does. I think things have changed. I remember in Birmingham, I was in the stands watching a game. I think it was the England game, right, which India lost to England. Heartbreaker, but a great game it was. It was a jam-packed stadium. The world was very different. Not a empty seat to be found. I think the world has changed dramatically in the last 6 months, I would say. To a place where the stadiums are empty and people are at home watching cricket, right? Right now, England and Pakistan are playing in England and the stadiums are empty. The teams are playing on the field, but all of it is on television or is online broadcast. And people are in their homes enjoying the entertaining game of cricket and other sports. And so that's a huge change in the world that we are now. And the world has changed in many regards, working from home, working, in many aspects of life from home, entertaining from home, schooling from home, and, a lot of things happening in the cloud as a result. And the companies going from, large companies going from maybe 3 to 5 locations of physical sites to now probably 30,000 locations of physical sites, because every employee home is now a physical site for the company. And so a lot has changed, and it amazes me how quickly we have adopted. And I believe technology has a huge role to play in this.
It really has. Technology's taken center stage because, like you said, the world has dramatically changed. And the average family home is going to have people live streaming sports, movies on things like Netflix, even video games, while we're also trying to manage work from home meetings, whether that be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, of course. And although things have changed, you guys have been incredibly busy at Qualcomm because only last month you guys announced Snapdragon 865 Plus 5G mobile and the platform around that. But can you tell me more about exactly what it is and also what excited you about that announcement?
Yeah, I think you probably already heard about the greatness of the contributors in the 865 Plus platform. It is world's best handset platform in terms of performance. It supports worldwide global 5G bands. 5G is big, and I think we are at the cusp of breaking out on 5G from deployment point of view across the world. Clearly, United States and a few other nations have already adopted, but the uptick, the hockey stick uptick, is it's just around the corner in our opinion, and it's going to be a big year for 5G. And what better way to launch 5G than having a world-class, best performing platform in 865 plus. Along with 865 plus platform and 5G, there is a brand new, leading edge Wi-Fi technology as well. Qualcomm has launched its Fast Connect 6900 platform in 865 plus as well. And what this is bringing the latest and greatest Wi-Fi 6E. So it's Wi-Fi 6 enhanced implementation in this platform. This brings the ability to support 6 gigahertz band. It's like a brand new freeway that is made available to operate your vehicles on. And so you can see, as a result, traffic is going to flow a lot faster, a lot more efficiently. It is going to enable all the experiences that we talked about to come about very easy, like it was wired, in some cases faster than wired performance, like gaming, XR, virtual reality, augmented reality, having video calls with very high precision video quality, going up to 8K quality. Stuff like that, I think, is going to come about a lot more easier with platform like 865 plus and some of the technologies, including Qualcomm Fast Connect 6900 platform, which is Wi-Fi 6E capable.
I'm so glad you brought this up. So on the subject of Wi-Fi 6E, because we're going to have people listening all over the world with variant levels of knowledge around this technology, can you tell me a little bit more about it? And also, of course, Qualcomm's role in driving Wi-Fi 6E too.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I think it effectively is something that we feel a lot proud about as a company. Like I referred earlier in my introduction, this is what my team is all about. It is all about innovation, right? Wi-Fi 6E is something that started from an R&D project point of view about 4+ years back at Qualcomm, right? And so it's something that you're seeing now was a commitment from a research and development point of view at Qualcomm 4 years back, a little more than 4 years back. What Wi-Fi 6E is extending the Wi-Fi 6 into the 6 gigahertz band. And maybe I should probably explain why Wi-Fi 6 versus Wi-Fi 5. And there's two components to this, and I'll try to kind of maybe bring it to a real life, analogy. It's two components to it. The first thing is the freeway capacity. And the second is the engines in the cars that are going to be on the freeways. And so there's multiple places you can go for improving efficiency or extracting efficiency, what I call in terms of wireless medium, extracting the maximum out of the medium or improving the utilization of the medium. Long story short, from Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 6, we improved the engines of the cars, the traffic vehicles that were transacting on the freeways. But we had the same freeways to play with as we had in Wi-Fi 5, in Wi-Fi 6. And so now the cars became more efficient. They became a lot more smarter as they were transacting on the freeways that were there in Wi-Fi 5. And as a result, you were getting a lot more performance. In net, technically, the modulation technique that was used in Wi-Fi 6 was called OFDMA. It was a different modulation than what was in Wi-Fi 5, which is OFDM. That's Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E is, like we briefly touched on it earlier, is introducing the 6 gigahertz spectrum. So that is effectively putting a brand new freeway on top of the existing freeways that you had to work with. So now, going from Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 6E, you have very efficient cars transacting the freeways, and on top of that, you have a brand new freeway. Just imagine the amount of efficiency in traffic patterns going from one place to another you create as a result of having this new setup. This is what Wi-Fi 6 is all about. Now, there's a lot of technology. I have trivialized this in context of the analogy of freeways and cars, but like you would think, you want to have an efficient engine in a car. The amount of work that needs to be done from an R&D point of view is equivalent to what you would say you would require in wireless communications, or even more, right? And so the complexity, all of that was dealt with very nicely and invested in as well ahead of its times by Qualcomm. And so what we are seeing now is fruits of the labor of the last 4 years and more, basically, in the marketplace. And that's how, as a company, we bring leadership solutions to the marketplace.
And one of the things that I've noticed over the last 6 months, of course, is that increasing hunger for bandwidth. And if we look in our own homes, like I said a few moments ago, there's this increased appetite for live streaming, gaming, and all competing for the same bandwidth that we have when we're trying to have those meetings in our home. But if we look outside of our home, then we're starting to think bigger and thinking about smart cities as well. So it's clear that the pace of technological change is ramping up at breakneck speed. So how will Wi-Fi 6E help with this surging connectivity demand, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, like you indicated, in the home. I think one bigger thing that we should not lose sight of, the consumer demands mobility, right? That is a baseline premise. Mobility is something that a consumer is not going to compromise on. So every screen that they largely carry has to be a mobile screen. Now, the larger the screen, the higher the video quality precision or the quality is going to be expected by the consumer. And Wi-Fi 6E brings that multi-gigabit capacity on the link to the screen that the consumer may have. Having said that, another big phenomenon that is happening in the marketplace right now, as we work from home, school from home, entertain from home, is everybody is going for the medium at the same time. And they are, like I said, moving around the house. It's not one location. And so having a blanket of medium capacity available at every corner of the home for a same performance that the consumer may expect, irrespective of where the consumer is the challenge that Wi-Fi 6E helps solve in a nice way. You take the examples of gaming, you take the examples of schooling from home, you take the example of sourcing video content, high quality video content on all screens, sometimes 4 or 5 screens firing at the same time. You're looking at, largely the bandwidth being there, but the efficiency with which we tap into the bandwidth being an even bigger component to the experience. You take the same equation out, you go to coffee shops, you go to malls, you go to venues like, theaters, outdoor, sports venues, stuff like that. And again, people are, constantly on their phones, transacting, social mediaing. They are also capturing, life moments of their experiences outdoors and want to upload it to the cloud. That itself, again, is a big experience change. Remember, from our days of the broadband connectivity, majority of the broadband equations that we would deal with from a connectivity capacity point of view were asymmetric. You had the download speeds that were, the best in class, but the upload speeds weren't there. Now, with the experience of capturing live moments in outdoor venues or outdoors and uploading them, you require capacity to go upstream. And consumer wants all of that to be done very quickly so that their friends and family can see stuff that's back in the cloud into their devices that they've uploaded, instantaneously. That capacity is also a challenge. With the Wi-Fi 6E and 5G, we solve those problems very nicely. So the symmetry in the performance comes to play. And so uploading experience is no different than downloading experience.
Absolutely. And something that always amazes me, if I look back, 5 years ago, and how many devices were connected to my home router, there was a handful. Now, of course, every family member has got tablets, phones, and if we just take a step back from our own devices, you got things like toasters, TVs, fridges, washing machines, etc. Again, all having access to that network. So just to help bring everything that we're talking about to life, do you have any use cases or real world examples that will just enable everyone listening to see how much of a game changer this could be?
Yeah, I think so. You bring up a good point, and I think we didn't touch on this. The world is getting to a place where everything is going to be cloud connected, right? And so there comes the notion of IoT devices, where I don't know why, but Amazon is going to have access to your refrigerator in some or other fashion with cameras and, effectively building that efficiency in your lifestyle, because Amazon is going to potentially, I'm using Amazon loosely here, but, an online retailer is going to have, the ability to ship to you something that you may need even before you realize you need something, right? Before you kind of get to the bottom of your gallon of milk or a liter of milk bottle that you may have in the UK, online retailer is going to ship it to you because they have this amazing access to your refrigerator or things like that. Your security is going to be, your camera is going to be connected in the cloud. All of these, experiences are going to require a certain quality of wireless connectivity. You're not going to be able to run wires across your home, right? That is not going to be possible. So, and especially in places like the United Kingdom where you have brick walls, right? It's going to be extremely difficult. You have all these devices now contending for medium. And how you kind of bring efficiency in utilizing the medium so that your video experiences, your conferencing experiences, your high definition gaming experiences are not compromised is going to be another big challenge. As Qualcomm, I think we have this other, leadership position that's not probably discussed today, but I'll bring to light is we have this mesh Wi-Fi capability that is uniquely led in developing the technology as well as deploying the technology in the marketplace by Qualcomm. And so you see all these nodes or Wi-Fi mesh units that you can sprinkle around your home and get a blanket coverage. It also effectively works to make sure that the channel is most optimally utilized. You are parked in a place where it's clean air to work with so that you can have the best experiences. And dynamically, the technology picks the air location. It may sound very abstract, but stay with me. The location in the air where you could transmit wireless patterns, what they call as channels, right? And so I think those are the things. These are experiences that you will, Neil, experience in Birmingham. But you come back to the city of London, right? And places like New York, London, or San Francisco, where everybody is in multi-dwelling units in vertically set up housing, basically, right? And you have neighbors to your right, to your left, to your top, to your bottom. Now, it's not only your devices that are contending for the medium, but the devices in 4 other places around you are also contending for the same medium. The complexity goes to a newer height, in my opinion. And as a result, having the best-in-class wireless technology helps you alleviate those challenges that you would otherwise face if you don't have things like Wi-Fi 6E, mesh Wi-Fi capabilities on top of it, and the ability to dynamically manage all these devices. Some of these devices are mission critical. Your security cameras, mission critical. The well-being of your elderly people in the home, mission critical. You can't compromise. And so the quality of connectivity is another big component that you have to take into account. At the end of the day, it comes down to consumer experience. And obviously, bringing the best-in-class technology as we are doing in Wi-Fi 6E and 5G is all about that, giving the consumer the experience that they want, basically, or they expect from some of these products that are going to be in their homes.
Now, I'm not sure if you know, but when I'm not recording this Daily Tech podcast, I also host the Switched On Thinking podcast by Netgear. And I recently read that Netgear see the announcement from Qualcomm Technologies as a positive step forward in what's possible for networking right across the industry. So I'm curious, can you share more about what this kind of news means to your partners too?
Yeah, I think Netgear is a very strong partner of Qualcomm, and we have been obviously they are our customer and we are their supplier. But developing technology, leading edge technology, needs to be validated by deployment by our customers. And in many situations, Netgear is our lead partner. Netgear is one of the few others that we work with as well in the marketplace. We work with, you will find us in many of the mesh products that are from, brand name companies around the world. More often than not, if you go to a retail shelf, try to pick up Wi-Fi mesh products, more likely than not, I would say loosely, 90% of the times it is Qualcomm technology in there. And so you can see our customer base is fairly wide. Who's who is in our customers list. And we work very closely with all our customers. Netgear definitely is one of our strong partners, basically, in bringing new technology to the customers and consumers. And the partnerships with all of these customers have been, nurtured, developed, and successfully taken to newer heights for a course of a decade plus of period, basically, right? So a lot of goodness here, and we'll continue to work with some of our customers. Netgear is definitely one of our top customers.
And something else I always try and do on this podcast is shatter a few myths or misconceptions in an industry. So I'm curious, are there any myths or misconceptions that you've read, especially around Wi-Fi 6E, that you can finally lay to rest today?
Yeah, I think first myth is Qualcomm is all about 5G. And definitely Qualcomm is all about 5G, but Qualcomm's also a lot about other things, right? Qualcomm's a lot about IoT. Qualcomm's a lot about Wi-Fi, home access. Qualcomm's also a lot about variables. Qualcomm's a lot about earbuds. And so there are many things that Qualcomm does. Just to give you a feel of what Qualcomm's done with Wi-Fi. In the last 5 years, we have shipped over 4.5 billion Wi-Fi devices that use Qualcomm technology. So you can see Qualcomm's a lot about Wi-Fi as well, right? And so I think there's this myth that Qualcomm's a cellular company. And that definitely is one of our strengths in world-leading technology, delivering company for over 3 decades. But we also do other things. The other big myth about Wi-Fi 6E specifically is that 6 gigahertz spectrum is not available, and so this may be overstated. 6 gigahertz spectrum is going to be available starting early next year. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, in the United States already approved it. In the United Kingdom, we expect it to happen in the fourth quarter of this year. And so that, is going to become very widely available around the world. Having said that, the myth is that Qualcomm isn't ready to engage with customers on Wi-Fi 6E. I will share with you, without giving any bits into what our customer plans are, we already have the world's first mobile platform reference design with Wi-Fi 6E available to our customers. 865 plus has integrated, like you referred to earlier in our, from our press briefings as well as in this podcast. The 865 Plus is already Wi-Fi 6E capable phone. The technology is in there. Also, we anticipate our Wi-Fi 6E access point solutions to hit the marketplace ahead of our originally anticipated plans and published plans. And so we are running way ahead of our schedule, and I wouldn't be surprised if our customers benefit from this and bring great products to the consumers just in time for the Wi-Fi 6E and 6 GHz spectrum being available to the marketplace.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought that up because Qualcomm has been building out Wi-Fi in addition to 5G, and that's one of the stories we don't get to hear too much about. So what are the ways in which Qualcomm has been active in driving Wi-Fi connectivity forward? Is there anything you can share around that?
Yes, another big thing that is not very well known. I cannot think of a technology or a semiconductor company that has more diversified market segment play in Wi-Fi than Qualcomm. And there's a value for that, and I'll come to that. So I'll first tell you which segments we bring Wi-Fi to, basically. I talked about home access. I talked about mobile phones. We also are in PCs, both x86 based as well as Windows on Snapdragon PCs that are ARM based. We are also bringing Wi-Fi in the smartwatches. I alluded to smartwatches as being a big player at Qualcomm. We also are bringing Wi-Fi in multiple IoT platforms, from doorbells to cameras to many things, to dishwashers, microwave ovens, and on and on. So I lump all of those things into IoT. One big important segment that Qualcomm also is leading the marketplace in is the automotive segment, where Qualcomm delivers Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for the infotainment, the front panel infotainment in the cars. And so you can see how diversified the play is at Qualcomm. Clearly, I think it gives a tremendous amount of leverage from developing technology and putting it out there, very quickly in multiple segments. The benefit for us also, intangible but very strategic, is it gives us an ecosystem view. Where is this ecosystem going? What is the benefit in bringing this holistically to the larger ecosystem and driving in capacity that means value to our cars, to IoT devices, to home access, to mobile phones, to PCs, and many other things.
Now, of course, if we go back just 12 months ago, like we were saying earlier in our conversation, you were flying to the UK for cricket. I was flying to the US for tech conferences and restaurants, bars, concerts, shows. And from there, of course, we ended up being locked down and doing everything from our home. And now if we do go out, many of us will even avoid a touchscreen that doesn't belong to us. But I'm curious, from the trends that you're seeing and the conversations that you're having with clients and customers all over the world, where do you think all this is going to evolve, and what excites you about the road ahead, just to ensure that we end on a positive note?
Yeah, I think, what the big health and hygiene is going to be front and center on a going forward basis, based on everybody's experience in the last few months. Interactivity is going to change. Predictability, machine learning, artificial intelligence is going to come more to the forefront. If I walk into the home air should be able to fingerprint what I bring into the home, right? If it's me, it should be able to say, it's Rahul coming to the home. It's my dog. It's my rest of my family. It should be able to say things like that, figure things like that. Because we are a unique body of water from Wi-Fi and radio signaling point of view. And having the ability to figure this out without touching a doorbell or a knob, or turning on the switch lights, physically, is going to change the overall experience. And effectively, it goes back to what you said earlier, not having to touch a screen, not having to kind of do certain things that would kind of make our lives a lot more safer from, the health dimensions point of view. I expect things like that to come to the forefront from new use cases. Now, it is sounding futuristic, but the technology is there. If I stand in front of my screen, TV screen, It is, say, 2 p.m., or sorry, it's 4 p.m. Pacific time, and it is maybe 9 a.m. English time. And it's cricket, and the TV has already learned that, hey, I'm a big cricket fan. It is going to switch me over automatically. First channel I see would maybe Sky TV, Sky Sports, right? That is the level of interactivity that is going to come to the forefront. This is, largely because the wireless network is able to detect, compute, and bring to the forefront the intelligence, all in a heartbeat, basically, about what the experience the consumer should be experiencing at that very femtosecond, right? And I could change my mind. Maybe I'm going to want to see cricket. That's fine. And at that point, maybe I swipe in the air, and my gesture in the air is recognized through the Wi-Fi networks as, hey, I want to change the channel, or I kind of scribble in the air, right, with my fingers and gesture accordingly. And there's a lot that can happen. So the future is very much not outside the realm of possible. It's not a pipe dream. It is something that is possible, largely because of the capabilities that we have in our baseline technology, the networking capability, the sensing capability, the radio signaling capability, the modulation capability. All these things working together can elevate the experience, elevate the needs to touch certain things, and get exposed to certain things that we don't want to, or we want to avoid getting exposed to, and take our overall experience to a newer height.
Well, I've absolutely loved chatting with you today, and especially learning more about Qualcomm and finally busting that myth that there is so much more to you guys than just 5G. But for anyone listening that would like to delve a little bit deeper, read more about the kind of work that you're doing and the difference that you're making, can you point them in the direction of the best way of keeping up to speed with all things Qualcomm?
Yes, Neil, I think the best way to keep up with all things Qualcomm is a couple of ways. I think you may want to, subscribe to the Qualcomm handle on both Twitter as well as LinkedIn, and I myself as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter, largely, talking about technology and things that are more relevant to Qualcomm products and consumers of Qualcomm products. And so I'm both active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and there's a lot also being discussed about Qualcomm, the larger Qualcomm handle, basically both on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, like I said a few moments ago, I'd love chatting with you about, yes, Qualcomm has long been building out Wi-Fi in addition to 5G, but I think more than anything, we're all surrounded by a lot of doom and gloom on 24-hour news channels at the moment, and especially around technology and the impacts that's going to have in the future. So what I've really enjoyed chatting with you today was hearing that different narrative, that much more positive vision of the future and how technology can be used for greater good. So for that alone, just a big thank you for taking the time to share that with me today.
Thank you, Neil. Have a great day. Like I said, and I will sum it up, I have never been more excited about the technology that we are developing at Qualcomm and things that are going to come in the future. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Have a great day.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground in 30 minutes there, didn't we? It was exciting to learn more about Snapdragon 865 Plus and the 5G mobile platform, and of course Wi-Fi 6E, which feels incredibly exciting. But also the myths and misconceptions that you may have read around Wi-Fi 6E. Hopefully we've banished a few of those in today's conversation, and also learning ways in which Qualcomm has been active in driving that Wi-Fi connectivity forward and how they're so much more than just 5G. But if we do have any network geeks listening to the podcast today, remember, I also host two other podcasts. I host Switched On Thinking with Netgear and also Tech Fusion with Citrix. So if you want to delve a little bit deeper into those subjects, we literally have content coming out our ears. But what I love about Tech Talks Daily is this is my direct connection with you all. And I would love for you to share your insights, opinions, expertise, questions, or anything else. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My social channels, you look for me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just @Neil C. Hughes. And over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, you'll find over 1,320 interviews with some of the biggest tech leaders in the world, and also more information on how you can work with me. So if you do want to launch your own podcast, or your business wants to launch a podcast, but you're not interested in the hassle of editing audio files and setting up RSS feeds and submitting to Spotify and all that kind of stuff, I can make it as easy as you recording a Zoom call and leaving the rest to me. And equally, if your C-suite needs ghostwritten thought leadership articles, you know where to find me. But more than anything, I just want to hear your insights, questions about today's episode and the technology that we discussed. So please keep those messages coming in, and I'll join you here, same time, same place, bright and early tomorrow morning, and we'll do it all again with another guest, and where we'll learn more about how technology is transforming our life, business, industry, and indeed world, while busting a few myths and misconceptions along the way. Sound like a plan? Good, glad you said that. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.